Alright, so I had some questions about the Danchee and how to actually set up the motors and how the ESCs work and everything. So I'm going to try to explain that right now. So as far as fitting the motors in, the motors fit really fine with the original hardware. I did need to put some spacers onto the bolt holes behind the bracket that fits in the axle. I wish I had it out right now. I wish I could show you. But there's a bracket that screws to the motor itself. I had to put a little tiny washers to help it fit a little better between the bracket and the motor. But other than that, that fits really well. But just to show you, I had to modify the axle case a little bit. So these are the power connectors. I had to cut out a little notch right here just so it comes out. And then on this side, I had to widen this notch a little bit just so both of these wires can come out. Because this one right here, the two red and a white, that goes to the switch. I have it mounted to the servo. And then this wire, this is the program wire and the ESC wire that goes to the receiver. I've said before, but these motors have built-in ESCs, which is fantastic, and it actually runs really well as long as you program your remote to accept it, and I'll get into that. So, with running both of these on your receiver, this one right here, I have it in channel, I think that's 5. And then the other one, this last one right here, that's my motor ESC plugged into channel 5. And this other one was plugged into channel 4. Now when you do this, you'll see this one, I took out that red pin because that's the power pin. If you do this mod, you have to take out that power pin. If you don't, you will ruin your receiver. You'll overload the circuit. It'll just have too much power. One is plenty. Because I also have the motors hooked up in series. It's really hard. Or sorry, not series. I have it wired in parallel. So the voltage is the same. But yeah, I just have it heat shrunk and put out of the way for now. It's in your best interest to not cut it, because if you cut it, then if you ever use these motors for anything else, then you really can't. You'll have to replace the whole connector and everything. But all you do, down here, there's just these little brass pins. You push one in and you kind of work it out from there. And then you just plug this back in over here, and then you're good to go. So once you have your axles and your steering set up in here, and you have your second motor hooked up, you need to be able to tell the radio that you have a second motor. So how you do that is you come down here, to auxiliary channels. It's number 17 on the radio link RC6GS. So you come into your auxiliary channels, press enter, and then I have my 2 throttles on 4 and 5. Channel 1 is already set up for a steering channel, and channel 2 is set up as your main throttle. For some reason, my channel 2, my main throttle, already burnt out. But because you can program both of these as a throttle, I just use it like that. So you come in here. Nothing's on, by the way. If you have something on and you change these values, you can break something if you change it to a steering channel or something like that. But I come down here, you click enter, and then you can change it from a steering to a throttle, and you just press enter and then it saves it. That will tell the receiver that your motor on that channel is supposed to be a motor, and it'll be able to use the trigger as it's supposed to. So to talk a little bit more about what I had to do to get this working really well was we already talked about the channels I had to make and widen, but in here where the wires are at, the wires naturally want to come out straight perpendicular to the motor, so they kind of have to fold on themselves and kind of go into these weird directions. You do have to make a little bit of clearancing on the inside of this plastic piece. It's not much, it just needs to be able to do it enough to where it doesn't fold it so flat that it's going to pinch the cable. But it works really well. Getting some honest to God rock rash on here. I finally took it out today to go do some little bit of rock climbing. I'm out of town right now, but on business, but I'm able to actually go find some rocks in some parks and go mess around with it. I'll put a link to some, or not a link, I'll post a little bit of video about me taking this off-roading for the first time, and it does really well for all I expected out of it. I even put the motors to 100% power, and that I'll never be doing that again. It was pretty fun, but it just did some weird stuff. Just so fast, too fast for these axles, and just I'm afraid I'm gonna break something if I continue to do it. But yeah, that is it. This thing is just a little beast. The only thing that you really can't get away from with the Danchee is how much play there is in the axe and the gears. So if I were to prop this up on something and show you a little bit just how much, that's without the gears turning at all. And this is the problem with the stock Danchee, but I think it's just tolerances in the gears. I really wish there was something to do without putting undue stress on the motors that I could do. If anybody has any ideas, please let me know. Because if you are going over an obstacle, the whole car just kind of lunges as you topple over a rock or something. And when you're trying to slowly crawl, it kind of bounces back and forth a little bit. But other than that, I swear this thing performs as good as a $1,300, Capra build or something. And all in all, I did the math, which is, the big no-no for everybody. You don't do the math on how much you put in your hobbies. But this thing only cost around $677 to build. That's tires, wheels, motors, the new radio I got, the chassis. It came with a light bar, but it's kind of pointless for it pointing down at the rocks. I want to get a mount on the servo so I can actually see the rocks in front of the buggy. That includes the desert lizards. These are fantastic, by the way. It comes with so many different spring options. Don't get the style that has the reservoir. It's pointless. It doesn't have any options for springs, and there's really no point to have the reservoir. They leak a lot. These are so much better than the reservoir shocks. What else? I think I have some 17 millimeter extensions. They work really well. Also have wheel weights. I think these are 93 gram wheel weights that over the whole thing, it added almost an entire pound to the Danchee, and this thing just sticks. I mean, just to show you a little bit, I'm pretty sure it goes over 45 degrees before it wants to tilt all the way over. That's pushing. There it finally went. This thing just sticks downward, and it's fantastic. One other thing I wanted to talk about was I talked about how I have the Everest 10 upper and lower links, and how I do the upper links. I got rid of the wishbone, the old wishbone. It mounted right there. I don't know what the actual use was for, but right here where this new bolt is, it goes through all the way. There was a kind of bolt or screw that went through this plastic piece. It really didn't hold anything in. It might have just been for structural integrity, but I took that, I drilled a hole that was 3 millimeters all the way through and put a 3 millimeter bolt in. I think that's like a 30 millimeter long bolt with a Teflon nut, but I drilled it all the way through, and then I was able to put these links on. And these links work super well. There's my custom 3D printed bracket. It's adjustable and works really well. I still haven't put this up on Thingiverse, but I will soon. I think there's other versions of somebody else's on there. That's why I'm not really too worried about it. But I'll put this one up there eventually. You just connect it up there, and it works really well. This is another thing I really want to talk about. So, on the Danchee, the supports for the shocks are really, really thin. Like, you could tell without me doing this, these things would be so far in, there would be no space for the shocks to actually move around. And I even have spacers up top. But if you get I believe this is a 22 millimeter, I need to tighten this up a little bit, but that's just because I never tightened it down in the first place. A 22 millimeter long by 3M bolt, you can get it in here, and this, I haven't had problems with this at all. None of them had any problems with them breaking or doing anything so far, and I've actually put a little bit of stress on this rig so far. Yeah, you just kind of put it through there. I do suggest if you do this, you take, when you're replacing your motor, you have your shocks that you want already, and you do it without the knuckle on. You just have a lot more clearance, because right here, there's really not a lot of clearance at all for just a big old Allen screw, or an Allen key, to come in here and do it. You can see where I did this one, it kind of stripped out, and I barely got it in. But while you're doing this whole upgrade with the axles, the metal gears, if you're doing the portal upgrade, go ahead and do it before while you're doing all that stuff. It's just going to be so much easier, less of a heartache on you. You won't be stripping out the heads of your screws. But you can do it. It's just not fun. This Endura chassis comes with this battery tray, and this works rather well. Right now I'm running these 2200 milliamp 3-cell batteries. That's the other good thing about these motors. They can take up to 3S. It fits perfectly right here. I did have to bend this bracket up a little bit, because before, at full squish, it would hit the tops of the links. But I just bent it up a little bit, maybe about a 1/4 inch or so, and it doesn't have that issue anymore. It has this nice little tie down so you can strap down the battery. but that works really well. The little metal thing that's supposed to be glued to this side or stuck to that side, and it doesn't really work that well. I'm thinking about how to do that in the future. I just don't know yet. This stays down most of the time anyway. I don't really have a problem with it at all. One more upgrade that I just recommend with any build that you're gonna have with a Danchee is just to get better servos. The original servos are something like only 6 kilogram servos. Most everybody goes up to 25. These 40 kilogram servos are fantastic. They're not very fast. You can get different ones that have metal gears. I don't think these ones have metal gears. It has this really fancy case. It didn't specify if it did, but these are, it's night and day difference. It's just fantastic to have. Whenever I'm in a spot and one is a kind of bound up, it'll actually move the entire rig, which in some cases it actually helps, but some others you have to be careful in. It has enough power that I could actually break other parts. That's why I really don't recommend going over 40. I mean, you can do it. There's some of the really pro rigs, they run like 100 kilogram servos, and that's just way too much for me. But because I went with those, I ended up making these custom links and just getting rid of the shared wishbone and just going from to direct drive. One drawback is I've noticed this becomes a high point for if you're going over rocks. It likes to hit now. So I'm thinking about doing one behind, but right now there doesn't seem to be a whole bunch of room. But I'll figure it out eventually. Under this is just a brass tube. There's no weight in it. It's just decorative. But inside is all thread, and I got these links right here off of Amazon for like something like $10. Then you screw the all thread in. It's a little bit of a pain to do the measuring. I think the long one needs to be 93 millimeters. The short one is 75. Center to center on the links. Yeah, that's right. So if you do your own, they're really easy. Just the pain is the right length for the all thread, and then the right length for the tube. But as long as you have the end result of 93 millimeters and 75 millimeters, you should be fine. So yeah, that's about it. If you guys have any other specific questions about it, feel free to ask. If you need me to reiterate anything, because my first video was kind of confusing, so I can explain anything in detail if need be. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I was just ecstatic that the other video even got over 100 views. I expected people just to, almost nobody to watch it at all. But I am just ecstatic and happy anybody saw it, really. I did see there was one fella in the other comments that he was asking how to do the whole setup because he already has all the parts on order to do it. I can't wait to see other people build these, and if you guys do it, please post it on a Facebook page or show me some other places that I can even post this one to kind of brag about it. I'm real proud of it. Haven't really seen anybody else do the brushless, and me seeing how good of an upgrade it really is, it's just fantastic. I just can't wait to really take this out and go do some real crawling with it. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, please let me know, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.